I think it's not unlikely that when river engineers from the Mississippi Valley visit Hoover Dam, they may feel a bit jealous when they see that deep granite canyon where a dam could be a place that would in effect regulate the river. In the case of the Mississippi, it was not possible to regulate the river with dams or other kinds of impounding structures. So the challenge of the engineers was to kind of work with the forces of the river.
Under the Jadwin Plan, the Corps focused on the lower Mississippi Valley, where floods inundated the land on a regular basis. The Corps built floodways that would allow the river to flow onto the land at New Madrid, Missouri, at the Atchafalaya River, and at Bonnie Carey, Louisiana. This system would reduce pressure on the main stem of the Mississippi by providing additional outlets into the Gulf of Mexico. In December 1928, the Corps began construction of Bonnie Carey Spillway, 30 miles north of New Orleans. The 7,000-foot-long structure was completed in December 1936. A few weeks later, unrelenting rain set into motion one of the worst floods on record. As the flood came downriver, the Corps opened the concrete gates of the Bonnie Carey Spillway. Floodwaters were diverted into Lake Pontchartrain, taking pressure off the levees, protecting New Orleans.
By 1937, many of the levees had been raised and strengthened. No levees on the lower Mississippi failed during the 1937 flood, nor have any failed since.
Working on a system as dynamic and as large as the Mississippi River, one can't know everything that there is to know about it. I don't think it's practicable to have a long-range plan for the Mississippi that wouldn't have to be revised repeatedly as conditions change and as the river changes.
In the lower part of the river in primordial times, there were a number of smaller streams that were removing water away from the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico. Old River was one of the last remaining locations where this was occurring, and over time it became apparent that the Atchafalaya River was trying to capture the Mississippi River, that the Mississippi would change its course and find a steeper alternate route to the sea.
The possibility of capture of the Mississippi by the Atchafalaya was very real and could just not be allowed to happen. New Orleans and all of the industrial complex below Baton Rouge would have been deprived of a fresh water supply and dependable access for ocean-going commerce, and the economic impacts would have been extremely severe.
Congress ordered the Corps to keep the Mississippi in its course.
The decision to control flows at Old River was a major decision, and it required that you, in essence, take Mother Nature on.
A wall was constructed in what had previously been a gap in the levee system at Old River. And in that wall, several valves were placed. And those valves could be opened or closed and would allow engineers to determine just how much water would or would not flow from the Mississippi to the Atchafalaya.
Old River Control Structure was finished in 1959. Work continued on the flood control plan. More than 1,600 miles of levees were raised and strengthened. The river's channel was deepened, Giant concrete mats lined the river bottom to prevent erosion. And the keystone of the flood control plan, the system of spillways and floodways, was complete. The newest spillway, Morganza, built a mile from the river, would redirect the Mississippi's floodwaters into the Atchafalaya Basin, 30 miles south of Old River. In 1973, Morganza was opened during the worst flood in a quarter century. The Bonnie Carey spillway was also opened. The Corps was successful in protecting every major city along the river. Never before had such a large flood been passed out to sea with so little damage. But at Old River, the Mississippi was winning the battle.
I was in my office and a fisherman drove up. He said, "Is that south wall supposed to be moving like that?" I said, "What you mean?" He says, "On the control structure," he said, "a wall on the other side is moving." I said, "No, it's not supposed to be moving."
It would shake to a point that you were absolutely concerned about the safety of being on that structure. Now, this is a massive concrete structure that's over 100 feet long and has piling that go 100 feet deep underneath it, and yet we had this kind of vibration from the water passing through it.
The Old River structure did keep the Mississippi from changing course, but just barely. The river's turbulent waters scoured an enormous hole beneath the structure. While Old River still operates today, it was too severely battered to fight the river alone. An entirely new structure was built nearby to help support it. This auxiliary structure was the last major project built on the lower Mississippi in the 20th century.
I was asked when I was testifying before Congress about the auxiliary structure at Old River if this improvement would be all that was ever needed there, and my reply was no, sir. And the next question was, well, what will be the next thing? And I said, I don't know, but with the system that we're living in out here, there will be something, and that you can count on, and that you must ever be ready for.
Decade of the 20th century, floods overwhelmed the upper Mississippi Valley. Unlike the lower Mississippi, it had no comprehensive flood protection plan. As in the past, on our nation's rivers, America's politicians and engineers are being challenged to find solutions.
To learn more about engineering and public works, visit PBS online at pbs.org.